What's good, fam? Thank you so much for supporting us here at Views from the 616. In order to celebrate, we've partnered up with Lootcrate to give our listeners 15% off a Lootcrate box subscription. Lootcrate is a monthly service that gives you exclusive geek and gaming related merch. For the August Lootcrate, it's going to feature Groot, but that's not all. You'll be able to get Star-Lord, Rocket Raccoon, and Gamora. But the only way you'll be able to get all of them is if you have a Lootcrate subscription. So use the code FANSHOW15, that's FANSHOW15, in order to get 15% off a subscription. Thank you and enjoy the show.
I am Hela, Odin's firstborn, the rightful heir to the throne and the goddess of death.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
I did not break your rules. They simply bent to my power.
It captures the African-American experience.
And welcome back, internets, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your hosts, Tatiana King, aka the Wicked Witch of the West View, the coldest Winter Soldier ever, Ravonna Ren Player, Tesseract Thompson, and Schrodinger's Cap. And I'm joined by my lovely co-host.
Was that Ravonna Ren Player?
Ravonna Ren Player.
I like it.
Thank you.
I like it. Well, it's your boy DJ Ben Amin, a.k.a. Brother Voodoo Child, a.k.a. Holla, 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 a.k.a. the Black Adam Warlock, the Nightmare on Elm Street, Lieutenant Good Trouble, the All-White Panther, the Power Toker, John Walk It Out.
Like, walk it out. So ridiculous.
Walk it out. And of course, we was Kang.
Now, I have to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not saying we're the only ones who came up with this, or Ben Amin specifically, but
No.
Ben Amin had that AKA for like over a year now.
Yes.
So now that the fact that this is all out in the streets, there are quite a few For All Nerds listeners who's been dropping it in chats lately. So
Yeah.
Not to say that it's stolen, but I just find it funny is all I'm saying.
I mean, it's
That's
all
all.
good. We all on the internets, shout out to Dallas Penn. That's how we all do it,
We are on the internet, and we all have converging thoughts and themes that of various timelines. We're all variants of each other, as we all know, right?
It's a multiverse out here.
That's true. And that is what we are discussing today. This incredible episode 6, the season, not series, but season finale of Loki, titled For All Time, Always. Ben, well, first of all, I always thought that what do you call it? Like a mantra, adage, a theme? What is that? Something you say like to represent your group, whatever you want to call it. A mantra. I always thought that was the coldest mantra that they came up with for this show because like it could represent so many different things.
Yes.
But when it comes to this finale episode, I feel like Loki is the Simone Biles of the Disney Plus shows because they stuck the freaking landing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Factual. The other shows were good, but this really took the cake. So I would say the next Disney Plus shows have a lot to live up to, and I'm looking forward to it. But I just wanted to personally thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. Obviously, thank you for joining us here at Views from the 616. If y'all haven't already, make sure y'all listen to our Kate Herron interview. She gave us some exclusives during that interview. She talked a lot about the process of building Loki and about the process of just being a creative and how to just expand your craft. So she gave lots of great gems. And again, she is like literally, she's fam. She's a big supporter of the show. She follows us. She listens to us. So we want to salute you. Thank you again for coming to the show. And thank you everyone who listened to that episode. And really we got a wealth of people coming in thanking us for the episode. They enjoyed it. So thank you for listening to Views from the 616.
Word up.
And Ben, what else you got to say? You just shaking your head.
That's it. Let's get into it. It's, we've been thanking people and all that. Now it's time.
It's time. So, episode 6, the finale. Let's give you your basic plot. Well, damn. I think Ben has some explaining to do because the man behind the curtain has been revealed. And basically, we put some Kang in your Immortus, in your Scarlet Centurion, in your Rama Tut, in your Kang, because this episode went left, to say the least. Loki and Sylvie debate over the meaning of everything, while Ravonna says, I'm going for mine, and Mobius is left picking up the pieces. Is Sylvie the god of Karens? What happened to Back to the Future being nonsense? How will Loki get out of this one? Well, we're going to figure it out together, or maybe not, on this episode of Views from the 616 to talk all through this last episode and this incredible first season of Loki. And again, I just want to say one more thing about Kate. I feel like her and her crew are variants of Loki's themselves, because the lies, the level of misdirection and the twisted truth that they put out there, like it was beautiful. But damn.
I mean, in our own interview, I had to DM Kate afterwards after I saw episode 6 and be like, yo, I mean, beyond, the big thing with Jonathan Majors and all that, it was just so many little things that she's stone-faced. Like, I was talking about the fact that all character, or not all, but a lot of the heroes in the MCU could be viewed as villains. Mm-hmm. I was just talking about this with her.
Several times.
Several times.
And she was straight-faced.
Straight-faced. I said Jonathan Majors, everything. No reaction, folks. Game recognized game.
The mouse has trained y'all well, but we appreciate it.
As far as game recognized game, shout out to Michael Waldron and the whole writing team, the writer's room. Shout out to each and every one of you involved. As a writer, as someone who works in rooms, I salute y'all. This is a beautiful piece of work y'all put together, especially in this final episode. The writing, like, people love, the Vision and his line.
He got cold lines, but he's the only one with the coldest lines.
Well, no, there was a lot of cold lines in WandaVision.
He's the only one with the consistently coldest lines. He's their favorite character.
They gave him a lot of butter. Yes. A lot of butter. But just it's not everyone either. Well, no, everyone got their lines in Loki, but the writing they gave to Jonathan Majors, all the things he's saying, the precision in everything he said in this episode.
Yo. So, as you say, let's get right into it, to the themes of the episode. And the first major theme we have to talk about is actually the title of the episode. Usually it is a title of the episode, but in this case, for sure, for all time, always. Mm-hmm. As we see the episode opening, we hear that, first, again, just mind-blowing, but the overlapping chatter, which is actually lines from various Marvel films over the decades. And it actually is also, it's funny enough, it's reminiscent of our own intro here at Views from the 616. You hear all the different lines. We have both our hero and villain intros. Mm-hmm. You hear the voices of Tony Stark, Hank Pym, the Wasp, and a lot of the people who, at least in the MCU, were involved in various facets of time or time travel. Mm-hmm. And then you also hear other folks from the MCU that it expresses the progression of time and those universes that we know, right? So you hear lines from like Captain America, you hear lines, as we mentioned, from Ant-Man and other stories, but you also hear voices from luminaries in our true, real Earth timeline. So you hear Nelson Mandela, Malala Yousafzai, Greta Thunberg, Maya Angelou, and each snippet is from like a powerful speech that it may have changed or led to like a shift in thinking, whether it's from history, art, social, politics. It's all contained, and all of this is contained in what is decreed to be the sacred timeline. This is the one timeline to rule them all that he who has remained has deemed to be the superior timeline.
Mm-hmm. And also, I want to give a shout out to, once again, to Kate and everybody involved, how well these snippets were constructed. Because like you said, it starts off with the people who are most involved with time travel. And then it runs through like a history of the MCU for us. And also including that variant Captain America. I can do this all day. I know, so right away we get into the variants. But then the big one is Alan Watts is the first voice we hear once it starts going into the luminaries. And Alan Watts is this philosopher who has all these theories about time and the nature of time. And he's one of the people who really popularized the idea of time being this flat circle, and also a view of time in the fact that just because we think of time as the past causing the future. While he says time is all about the present. Everything is happening at once. It's all laid out like we talked about before, like as if you were reading a comic book. The story is already laid out when you pick up the comic book. You could flip to the beginning. You could flip to the end. Either way, you know all of this character, this person's life. And that's you looking down at a 2D form. While we're 3D forms, and the one who remains in the TVA are 4D forms who look at us like a comic book. So Alan Watts is one of the first people, or one of the people who really popularized this idea. So that's why you hear him first when we start going through all the luminaries.
And he makes perfect sense for the theme, right? The idea of for all time, always time is time is always moving. There's always something happening and something going on. So it's not just a linear construct. It's so much more than that. It's many dimensions, above, below, between, reverse, like it's all over. And also within that concept of for all time, always, as I mentioned, like that idea of infinity, right? So we've seen that symbol throughout the series. We've seen it when we mentioned like the hourglass itself. When you turn it on its side, it also represents an infinity symbol. And when we talk about he who remains, Jonathan Majors, he is essentially of all time himself. He knows there's infinite numbers and versions of him. He knows he's going to come back. When he's killed by Sylvie, he says, "See you soon," and does that really cute wink, like in the tongue-in-cheek wink. Like he knows, right? Like he knows in essence he's going to be reincarnated. He also expresses that his purpose has always been to protect time, if you will. He's taken it upon himself as someone who is so smart. Like he mentions his 31st century self was a scientist, and he was so smart and so this and that he realized that there were multiple universes on top of each other. So for someone to have that understanding and he even expresses it in a narcissistic manner, like congratulates himself and understands how stuff works, for you to take it up upon yourself and say, I'm going to make my timeline reign supreme. I'm the one who stopped the multiversal war. I'm the one who's going to live a million lifetimes. Like this idea that you are, I don't even want to say God, but like you are God of everything.
No, it's
they're an infinite being.
It's definitely a God complex. And like I was talking about, the precision in the writing of what Jonathan Majors says to them is so wild, because when he is breaking down his origin story, it's not even his origin story. He says a variant of mine discovered the ability to, contact other things. We all just started, but then, like he says, we're all doing this at once. Every variant in every universe at the same time is discovering this, for the most part. Some might have been faster, slower. Some might have been waiting for the other ones and then stole it from them, like he was talking about. But he is the one who, at least he tells us, is the one who got Alioth together and then ended the multiversal war. So he put in mad work. He put in mad work. He tamed Alioth,
the interdimensional, all supreme being that consumes energy and space and time itself. Like, that's a flex.
A big flex. And ending the multiversal war between all these Kangs, between all these multiple universes of Kangs, living, like you said, through all these eons. He says eons ago, that's when this was discovered.
Yeah.
In the 31st century. That's eons ago where they're at.
Where they're at now.
At the castle in the end of time. So this man has been through, seen it all, and done it all. And that's why we see one thing that clues us into his comic book origins is that he's dressed not so much like Kang, but more like the character of Immortus. He has the same circular symbol around his neck that Immortus wears. He has the flowing robes like Immortus. And Immortus is basically Kang at the end of his line. When he's just tired of being Kang, he basically takes this form of being Immortus, where he's like, I'm a rule time, but I'm so sick of it all. That's always Immortus. Like the story that I remember Immortus from is when that same story where the Kangs are going around killing each other. It's really Immortus behind it all, wiping out all of the Kangs.
Wiping out himself?
Basically, but reducing it to where, like we see here, where he is the one timeline. Like, that's why I even tweeted that thing about, Jonathan Majors got y'all believing that this is the sacred timeline. But it's only sacred to him.
It's sacred, everything, right. In his narcissistic view of what should be.
of what should be. It's not, like this should be. So basically everything, and this is something like I've talked about how I was wrong because I thought it might be a Loki behind there, and I was pretty adamant about it. And I was adamant about it, as I explained to you, because there's a rule in writing where you just don't introduce a new character out of nowhere to solve a mystery. But the thing about Marvel is they can break these rules of writing because their stories are everlasting. Like, once again, something Jonathan says to them in this episode, the story doesn't end. It keeps going.
Time doesn't end.
Yep. So because of that, Marvel can break those rules. So Marvel can introduce a character like Kang out of nowhere who only the nerds know. I mean, not the nerds, but the people who are already in the comics, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, nerds. We're all nerds anyway. That we know, and then have him go on because he will be in other properties. But if this was a self-contained story of just this one season, and you suddenly introduce this character at the end, who, is behind it all, and then that's the end of it, it's like, what?
We wouldn't accept that as an audience.
No, we there it is. And that's like one of the rules of storytelling. That's what rules of storytelling are all about. You don't want the audience to stop, to ever be like, what? That's always that is what it is in any story. One great way of, it's like A, B equals C. The most simple story right there. But if you say A, B equals D, what? Like, you're not telling
it's
the
like,
true
where did
story.
that come from? Right.
Yes, there it is.
Right.
So that's why, it is Kang, and man.
Yeah.
I wasn't mad though,
I screamed, and I'm probably going to release my reaction video.
Yes.
I actually filmed myself watching the episode for the first time, and
we got to see that immediately. We got to see that moment immediately.
Y'all will see the moment.
Yes.
And I wanted to make this last point in this theme, and towards your point, Ben, about the writing being so precise, because this last line, or one of the lines that He Who Remains says, he says, he's lived a million lifetimes and gone through every scenario, and this is the only way. And when he was talking to Loki and Sylvie about the only way to change things, if you will, even though you're going to really keep things the same. The only person I've realized, the only other person who has ever said anything remotely close to that is Doctor Strange himself. Because remember during Infinity War when he said he saw over 14 million possibilities for the outcome, and he said only one of them had Avengers win.
Yep.
So this feeds directly into the Doctor Strange movie coming up, the multiverse movie coming up, but that was on purpose that they mention it in that way, that these are the only two characters who are mentioned, stuff like that, because those are the levels, that's the level of shit that they're dealing with at this point.
Yes. And you're dealing with a motherfucker who the first thing we see him do is sit there smiling and eating. Like, my man had not a care in the world.
We'll talk. Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about his characterization. Let's get into the next theme, which is called The One in Charge. This comes from particularly Ravonna and her chat to Mobius, where she's like, only one person gets to have free will, and that's the one in charge. In this case, and again, we're going to use these names interchangeably because he could represent different people. He Who Remains, Kang, the Conqueror, whatever. Like, she's talking, in this case, is He Who Remains, but it could also be somebody else, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, man. So before she leaves through that time door, she tells Mobius that she's in search of free will. So is she saying that she basically wants to, or is this a telegraph to future story that she wants to essentially take over and rebuild the TVA or do shit in her own image?
No. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say perhaps. But I will say that I think it is a telegraph, like you said, but a telegraph of her saying, I'm looking for free will. That's not a thing. It's a person. The one in charge. Also, she got the message from Miss Minutes where Miss Minutes said, he wants you to have this information. Who is the he? Is it the one who remains that we've seen, or is it another version of him?
So she is, in essence, would be on an infinite quest to search for he.
Well, maybe he gave her specific directions.
Potentially,
come through
right?
And see me.
And to me, it also that whole setup is also at least a different way of setting up their relationship, like in the comics, where there's basically infinite versions of themselves in love, fighting each other. I love you, I hate you, Jody. All this stuff like all the time. So I just feel like the way that they set this up and her clear anger, like her anger that her faith in the TVA like is being tested, and she's like, this can't be all for naught. There has to be a reason behind it. There has to be a reason for life. There has to be a reason why we do what we do. So that I feel like a lot of that anger is also a driving motivator for her, which is why I'm like, okay, is this their way to also push them towards that comic book contentious relationship?
Mm-hmm. And speaking of comic books, this whole one in charge thing right here really reminded me of Animal Man. I've actually mentioned it before. The Animal Man run by Grant Morrison from DC Comics, where in it, Animal Man goes through all kind of wild stuff. Like, short story, Animal Man is a character who can basically absorb the powers of any animal or abilities of any animal that's near him. So for most of DC's run, he's a cool little dude, but he gets married, has a kid, and kind of retires, and just lives a normal life, occasionally doing investigations or whatever, but not too much.
Okay.
But in Grant Morrison's run, mad stuff goes through. I want to say his wife and kid get killed.
Damn.
He gains immense power, like he starts, gaining the abilities of amoeba and all kind of stuff, and using his abilities in crazy ways, like gaining a fly's perception of time. So time slows down because a fly is so minuscule that time operates on a different level for them. So things of that nature, just flipping and bouncing it. But all this terrible stuff happens to him at the same time, right? And he's just, Animal Man. Like normally in his run, it's just been, good old Animal Man. So all this wild stuff starts happening to him. And the run is not long. It's like 21 issues. At the end of it, after all this wild stuff, he has an issue where he meets Grant Morrison. The guy writing it.
The guy that makes him, his creator.
The one
he meets
in
his
charge.
Own creator.
Yes.
He meets his God.
He meets his God. And his God sits there and tells him some of the same things that, they were told in this episode. We got to go through this. You have to go on this journey so you'll be prepared for this. And the one who remains says it in this joking, silly way because he's also talking about writing. Like, that's the thing of writing. Your character has to go on this journey.
And that's exactly what He Who Remains says to Sylvie and Loki.
Yes, he says you have to go have these obstacles placed in front of you so your character will grow and change so they're ready for the big moment. Because once again, he's reading their lives like he's reading a comic book. So to him, it's just like, this is like any comic book. This is what they have to go through. And that's what basically Grant Morrison says to Animal Man when he's like, yo, what the F? Why have I gone through all this? And he's like, people need drama in their lives and stuff. And people who are reading, these stories look for drama and characters. And this is what has to happen. And and goes through all this stuff. And then at the end of it, restores his life, to before and all that, where he's normal Animal Man and all. So it's like this ill moment, but it's also talking about just what they said. And like the God, that was another thing. People, they were like, yo, and throughout this whole series, they've been like, yo, we got to kill the TVA. We got to get down with TVA, And then when they get there, it's like, okay, down with this dude. He got to die. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what is God to people? Like, it's going to be like this no matter what. Like, that's what, like, shit ain't going to be better when they murder this dude. Like, and that's the argument they have. But people add, like, I really did not understand their argument. It's like Sylvie can't get past her own feelings because
that was my problem.
It gets real obvious once they get there. It's like, what does, matter if you kill this guy?
And he says as much, and Sylvie is very stuck on the whole, he's a liar. He's probably lying. This is probably stories. But I'm just like, at what point does everyone's a liar stop? Like, it's just this infinite, he's got to be lying. Y'all did all of this. Y'all went through a life. Y'all got to the Citadel. You see this happening. You see this man present you with a script of this is your life. Like, Miss Minutes tell you some outrageous stuff, sure, but it's not out of character. She been saying outrageous shit. So it's just like, to your point, like, and to my point, at what point does it do you accept? Sylvie does not accept.
And I feel like it'd be like trying to kill the person who's reading your comic book. Because it's like, you still make your own decisions in life.
Right.
This person is not controlling. It's just like with the idea of God we have right now.
But do you? This goes back to what we said in episode 1 and also throughout these episode reviews and stuff that you talked about that you like to think about even since you were a kid. Like those existential philosophical arguments like that between God and man and just our understanding of life. Like we said, what's the meaning of life and do we have free will? Like if you are a Sylvie, you're stuck in that conversation with yourself because I feel like she's on her own Mobius strip of that conversation. She's stuck within that. Y'all are lying to me and I don't trust anybody and this can't be the case, regardless of what's presented to her.
And that's her problem. And I don't have that problem because me personally, once someone shows me the ability to walk through time, I'm going to explore that to the fullest because I'm like, well, that changes life. Because to me, these existential questions always end in, well, you have to live in the moment. Because this is the way we perceive time right now. And I have not been shown a way to not perceive time at 60 seconds per minute. Other than I have been in places where time has slowed down and I've been in places where time is sped up, as I'm sure we all have,
Yeah, and that happens in general, like just like you said, in different cases of life. Like and it depends on your mindset. It depends on if you impaired or not, like you inebriated or whatever. Like we all experience time travel in different ways. You ever sit there and wait for a pot of water to boil? It feels like it's forever, right? But it's the same amount of time had always taken at whatever temperature you have it at. It just depends on your perspective.
I saw somebody else talking about it recently, and I was glad it was so confirmed, is that like prison time feels like forever for a minute to pass, but then when a day has passed, it felt like 5 minutes.
Right.
It's such, it is the most insane time just flips on you.
What do they say? Time flies when you're having fun. When you're having a blast, you're on vacation, you'll never, I don't have enough time. You never want to leave. But
when you locked up, you got way more.
It feels way more, right?
And so maybe that's how they feel. They feel like they're locked up. But I don't feel that way for them because I feel like they have a lot of free will in their choices and shit. And like the one who remains pointed out, and like I've been pointing out, they're all villains.
They are all villains, but also I can argue the point that they do not feel like they have, or at least particularly Sylvie does not feel like she has free will because this is the same man that just showed you a script of what you were about to say next and what you already said.
And beyond that, this is the same man who has been forcing people to chase you your whole life.
Whole life.
Your life is not. But see, that's what people like. That's Sylvie's problem. Is Sylvie feels like life should be better because something else happened. But the thing is, life happens and you deal with it, and that is your life. Like whether or not you caused it to happen, it's, that ain't really the problem. Like, that's why Batman is such the ill character, because Batman is the person who's like, okay, my parents got shot, right? Mm-hmm. It's not my fault, but F that. Nothing like this will ever happen to me again. And so I will prepare for anything, because nothing can happen.
Man's out of control.
Out of control. But that's the only way you can be if you expect to actually, have, that type of control over your life. You can have control over your actions and stuff, but things are still going to happen and you're going to have to deal with it. And Sylvie just wants her life to be different. She's like, but it could have been like this.
Right.
And it still would have sucked in some way.
I mean, this brings me back to what B-15 was saying when B-15 was in the cell and she was having a conversation with Ravonna. She said, Sylvie needs this. Just in terms of why, like she needs that revenge. She needs, like it's a burning desire within her. So there's nothing that would throw her off that path.
Because her life doesn't make sense without it. And that's why once she gets it, she crumbles because she realizes it means nothing. Damn. But that's the thing. Everyone needs something to get them through a day. Sylvie's religion was revenge.
Joker needs Batman.
Batman needs to be like, I gotta get ready. But what if?
The next theme is called The Devil You Know Is Better Than the Devil You Don't. And there were lots of references to devils in this series. Our favorite friendly neighborhood Mephisto made a brief appearance early on.
Yep.
But it's come all the way down to a couple of people, actually. we do know that Lokis themselves are referred to as devils. We remember when that homesteader referred to them as devils when Loki Lofsson tried to trick her into thinking her husband was there.
Mm-hmm.
That whole trickster, mischievous stuff, that's all devil-like nature. And then obviously he who remains himself. He knows people who know of him anyway consider him a devil. And again, just shout out to Jonathan Majors for his characterization, because he was off the wall. And this, like you said, the stuff he was saying, and it was funny, but it was also cold-blooded. Like when he was standing on his desk and he did his little dance, and he said, "You came to kill the devil." Like he knows what his position is, but he's also like playing with them. Like he's like, "Oh, so you came to kill me?" Like not like he already knows that it was about to happen, but also he's like, "You can't. Like you're not really going to kill me." And he tries to also, in that same conversation, he expresses, "I keep you safe. If you think I'm evil, just wait until you meet my variants." And as I mentioned, as this theme, the devil is better, because and that's an adage that's been said forever, right? Like I've heard that from my parents, that they've said that, like when we think about things like choosing the lesser of the evils, people say that a lot for like presidential elections, right?
Yep.
They go the lesser of two evils, whatever. Like you're not going to have a great choice, but it's like, well, this one's not going to kill me today, so maybe I'll go with that. And that is the approach that He Who Remains has to all this. Like, you want me, the quote unquote evil guy who depending on your viewpoint may not really be evil, or you want the truly evil ones that are behind me that I'm holding back. I don't know. And go ahead, Ben.
I mean, I ain't have no problem with my mans, like, but I don't think, we're about to get into this. I do not think he's as much presenting them with a choice either, or a conundrum.
It's not a real choice. It's more of a conundrum, right? Because he presents Sylvie Loki with this conundrum of choosing the lesser evil. So keeping the facade of the TVA going in order to keep the worst versions of himself at bay, or kill him and allow chaos to take over, which will probably result in another multiversal war. And he sums it all up as stifling order or cataclysmic chaos. Which evil is better?
Sounds like how Chris Rock described marriage once.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty much, truth in a way. He's like, you can either have a really stable relationship, which is going to be boring at some points, or you can go out and do your thing, and it's going to be chaos. You're going to have fun, but your life is going to be complete chaos,
But the idea, at least in a marriage, that there's no in-between.
That's also, that's his problem.
That's his problem, right.
Yeah, you got to have some chaos.
The way he who remains presents this is that there's only two ways this can go.
And that's him goading them into making the impossible when there is no choice. Because it's not. That's what I keep saying. Like, Sylvie could have just been like, all right, then, F you. F this TVA. You keep dealing with it. I don't need no revenge. I'm going to keep going about my life, and my life goes on. Like, that's even, like I say, even in prison. Like, I got locked up for some shit that most people, when they hear the story, they're like, what? That's insane.
So silly.
But it's like, I can't sit there for the rest of my life being like, because it's like, you got to go on from whatever you went through.
Right.
But
in Sylvie's case, and this is not like sticking up for her, because I don't like her choice, but this is all she knows. This is all she knows. Like, even though, like I said, that the whole thing that happened with you was absolutely terrible, that wasn't all you knew in life.
No. But at the same time, you got to now you can know some other shit in life. It's
right.
Like, that's how you got
her mindset. She's barreling towards revenge no matter what.
No matter what. I mean, it goes, I learned, but see, Sylvie never got to read comic books, man. Like, G.I. Joe talked about that when I was a kid, Shout out to Larry Hama. Like, he had this ill story about Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow wanted revenge for the murder of his master. And once he finally got to the dude who killed him, he's like, yo, this is a circle. If I kill you, someone else comes back after me for killing you. Goes back to Kill Bill. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, this is all
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't is also similar to the quote of, you are your own worst enemy. And that's how I feel it. Sylvie is to herself. And Loki is to Loki. Like, they've essentially established that there's different beings. We see, they develop relations for each other, but they're variants of the same singularity. I don't even know how to explain that. You're again Schrodinger's cat. Like you're a single being, but you're also two different people at the same time. Sylvie
what he tell you?
And when Loki is pleading with Sylvie to stop and let's think about it and all this other stuff, essentially Sylvie refuses to listen to herself. And that leads to the kind of the sub-theme of betrayal that is all throughout this episode. Everyone in this episode is talking about you betrayed me and da-da-da-da. And it's just like, for you to choose the devil that you don't know, what does that say about you?
You don't like yourself. And that's Sylvie's problem, is that she hates herself because, once again, she gets, revenge. But then what? Now what? And
then what?
And then what? No, you ain't, because that was your only thing. You ain't have nothing to do. You ain't Jeezy. You ain't doing nothing after this. It's just like, I'm going to sit here and cry. But like you said, they're variants of each other. And that's what I love how One Who Remains refers to them. Loki, as he pours tea, and Loki.
Because it's the truth.
Get over it.
Forget your street name, Sylvie. Your mama called you Loki. I'ma call you Loki, okay?
Oh, grow up, Sylvie.
Your mama named you Loki. That's your name. So
my man was killing it.
He Who Remains also said, you may hate the dictator, but something far worse will fill that void if you depose of him. Again, about the devil you know is better. This typical path you see happens a lot. It happens a lot with the U.S. government, particularly countries with violent dictators that we help them depose of them, and then something worse comes into place. We've seen this happen a few times.
Also, in that case, we usually put the violent dictator in place in the first place.
That's the other point.
Yeah.
So it's just what's funny to me that He Who Remains even mentioned that about dictator, and also the fact that people would look at him, or Sylvie particularly, would look at him as he's this evil dictator that is just taking charge of their life. But it's just like, I'm doing it in a way that's keeping you safe. You get rid of me, who knows what's going to happen to your life?
And this works. Shout out to Lexi Alexander, director of Punisher Warzone, the first female director of a MCU Marvel film.
Remember that.
Just got to make sure that's straight.
Proud Palestinian as well.
Yes. And speaking on that, Lexi tweeted the other day, and I recently saw this shit and was crying laughing. I should have tweeted it then. But Lexi tweeted a card from the end of Rambo 3, right? Rambo 3 came out somewhere in the 1980s. But it involves Rambo fighting with the Mujahideen, with the people who at the time we were down with because they were fighting against Russia.
Oh.
Basically, the people who turn around to, Osama bin Laden's crew, basically. But at the end of Rambo 3, it has, as the movie's over, it's got this words on the screen, title card or whatever, where it's like, and respect and love or salute, something to the brave fighters of the Mujahideen. And Lexi was talking about, I heard they took that out. I don't think they did, because I recently saw Rambo and I swear it was still in there. But once again, it shows you how time changes things and how, the devil becomes the devil, yeah.
And also the devil could be a necessary evil.
Evil. Yes, because right then the Mujahideen to us were necessary. And this idea is, I'm saying I was crying. But also, this idea is used a lot, once again, comics I grew up reading that they reference in Daredevil season 3. But in the Punisher at one point, there's a run when I was growing up where Punisher was like, all right, enough of this nonsense. I'm coming for the Kingpin's head. And he gets this crew together and they go after the Kingpin. Kingpin murders off most of the crew as they go for him. Punisher finally gets to him. Funniest line of it is Punisher gets to him and Kingpin tells this man, you're like a terrier chasing a lion. What are you going to do when you get to the lion? Because then Kingpin busts this man's ass and lays him out.
His ass.
Yeah. And is ready to kill him, but then the last of Punisher's crew comes in with the gat, and he's like, I'll blow you away. And, Kingpin's like, do it before I snap this dude's neck. And Punisher's like, yo, shoot him. I don't care about me. And dude's like, nah, fam. Right now, down in the street, they're already killing each other because they think you're up here killing the Kingpin. So, if we kill this dude, it's all our war.
It's already
It's already going down just because they think you're about to kill this dude.
Right.
So Kingpin goes on and the status quo goes on, and that's basically the choice he was offering them here. But like I said, I don't think he's offering them a choice. I do believe that the one who remains or another variant of him is goading everyone in this situation.
I agree to that.
To force her to kill him, to create the multiverse, so that Kang will be ruler of the multiverse.
And I think so as well, because again, before they get to that point, that threshold He Who Remains mentions, before that threshold where he said he doesn't know what's going to happen next, before they even get there, he puts that bug back in Sylvie's ear about her continuing to mistrust Loki and all this other stuff. Like, I still believe he's orchestrating a lot of this action. And also just in terms of necessary evil, Kang, he expresses, and I'm really glad this happened. I know you're happy about this. I was like, I know Ben, I mean, was jumping for joy when he heard this. But when Kane explained that we're all villains here, and he rightfully addresses the fact that both Sylvie and Loki are hypocrites. They're murderers, as he is, because Loki's all, how could you ruin innocent timelines? I'm like, nigga, you just came from the Battle of New York where you killed like 80 people in 2 days or whatever it was. Right before
80?
the battle.
80?
It was in one before the battle I'm talking about.
Okay, because the battle in New
York.
Showed
up, he killed like 80 people.
Oh, yeah,
and then went into the battle. But anyway.
My man had work.
Yeah, and Kane's expressing like, y'all both hypocrites, y'all both murderers. And all three of us have done terrible things, but now we have a chance to do terrible things for a good reason. Which sounds like the biggest effed up conundrum in the life, but it happens, right? It happens in real life too.
And it happens to most of the MCU, as I pointed out in our interview with Kate Herron, and once again, where she stone-faced me, because I'm sitting here pointing out this very theory that he gives them, and she's like, that's nice, that sounds cute. Oh, okay, I don't know if I agree or disagree with that. That's cool, But yeah, that's what I've been saying since the beginning. It goes back to Tony Stark, once again, who we're going to come back to with Kang, but it goes back to Tony Stark. This man is doing horrific things. And then he's like, well, I can do horrific things, but they'll be considered a little bit more good to the majority of people. So let me do it that way. And that's not a bad thing, but you also have to recognize, like, they're still killing things and still going about, it's like, yeah, they're killing things and attacking New York, but it really depends on what perspective you're on. Like, what about them things that were attacking New York? They had to go home to something and everything.
Oh, shut up, man.
Murder
they were
these
attacking
cats.
New York. If you was on 42nd Street and a fucking flying monster came out of a portal, you wouldn't be like, oh, I wonder if they know that they got children. No, my nigga. You would be like, kill that nigga in the sky and save me. You wouldn't be sitting there thinking about this monster.
Why is there a portal in New York?
Family.
Because the people, once again, time is a circle. Actions draws reactions. There's a portal in New York because these dudes are messing with the cosmic cube.
You as a random person on the street ain't thinking about all that. And don't pretend that you would be.
But see, I've said this to you before too. Take it from the other side of it. You as this random person in New York are going to be like, yo, ever since the Avengers showed up, hell has come to New York.
Maybe in another day when I'm in safety and alive, sure, yes. I'll think about that. If I make it out of this situation happening right now, maybe I'll think about, well, whose fault is this? Right now, my guy, I'm trying to get safe. I'm trying to stay alive.
I say that in any situation. But once again, it's the same thing like as people who think about things, when after 9/11, everyone who survived was like, yo, but what really happened here?
Sure.
And why did this happen?
When you make it alive to have that conversation with yourself, sure.
Yes. But
in the beginning, you ain't thinking of nobody, oh, I wonder if this alien has a family to go home to. No, you're not.
Well, I mean, Black Widow been out for over a week, right? Yes. Yeah. Black Widow saves Red Guardian from a prison and buries the prison in an avalanche.
She sure fucking does. It was I don't think it was purposeful, though. It just happened. Now, that doesn't take the fall away from her, but it wasn't.
Devil, But
it also wasn't like she caused the avalanche for the express purpose of killing people. I'll say that.
But at the same time, that's what I mean. Like, these cats is sloppy.
Yeah, they're sloppy.
Yeah, super sloppy. That's all I'm ever saying.
T'Challa's father. Like, yeah, of course.
Super sloppy, yo. Yeah. Like, all these cats just keep doing things, and it's like, but because they're on our side, we're like, yay!
I'm just saying, it's nothing that you're saying is wrong or invalid. It's just that it's after the fact. Like, yeah, when I'm safe, when I'm not in that situation anymore, I could think about the deeper levels.
Yes.
Right now, I'm just out here trying to function.
But see, that goes with anything. That's Sylvie's problem. She's just out here trying to function. She ain't thinking about the deeper levels of this. You know, like, she ain't thinking about, like, oh, I'm just trying to function. I'm, jab this dude, you know. Not trying to think about it. You got other choices. It's so wild. Like, the other choices walk out of the room. He offers you too.
The only other reason I'm still arguing with you about this, and we're going to move on, but the only reason we're arguing about this is because Sylvie has perceived power in the situation. I don't have perceived power when I'm in New York getting attacked. There's nothing I can do about it. Sylvie was in the room and was giving a perceived choice that you can kill me or move on. And she made her choice.
Yeah, once again, I'm not arguing with you with that about it all, especially you getting attacked in New York. But what I've said from the beginning, like, I said the same thing that he's saying. We're all villainous here, you know?
Sure.
Like, but we look at Loki and Sylvie as the heroes of this story. But Loki just came off
with what she did. I was like, girl, that don't even make no sense.
See, to me, it didn't piss me off at all, because it was like, girl, that made perfect sense to me. You know, you came for it. You know, you saw your job through.
Maybe because I'm to me, it's like, can you see beyond your rage?
No, I'm not you. That's what she said.
And that's what she said. And that's what I mean when I say piss. Is you couldn't see beyond your rage or your need for revenge enough that you had to make that decision.
It took Loki 10 movies and a rewind of his life for him to see that. You know, Sylvie ain't have all that. You know?
This version wasn't 10 Lokis. This was remember, this
but
was
he
just
saw what would happen.
He got to see it. You're right.
He got to see it through.
You're right. He got to see through the information.
And he already knew what he was going to do. He was like, yo, I get back to Earth, I'm going to get them stones. And then he's like, oh.
Didn't work out for me that time. Didn't quite work out the way I thought it would.
Maybe I better think of another plan.
Fam in the chat, twitch.tv/forallnerds. Make sure you are following us if you have the means. Make sure you are subscribed to us on twitch.tv/forallnerds, because we see y'all going brazy in the chat. We see y'all arguing with us. Please continue. We appreciate it respectfully. And that being said, make sure if you can, that, as I said, you're also subscribed. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription to a channel of your choice. Make sure you make that For All Nerds. Appreciate it. Moving on to the next theme. Time is a flat circle. This philosophy, man. This show is so heavy on the philosophy. I don't know if people really get it.
Nah, I don't think so either, because it took me YouTube views and all kinds of stuff. I actually told you we had to delay this recording because I was sitting there like grappling with thoughts in my own head, you know, trying to figure out how this episode really made sense, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing that happens in it, we talked about the time is a flat circle theory, which is popularized by this guy, Alan Watts, who's the first voice we hear in those luminaries. And it's a lot of people know it because of True Detective's first season, where Matthew McConaughey crushes a beer can and says time is a flat circle, right? In this episode, we see that a couple of times. We see it on my man's watch. You know, his stone watch.
His tempad-esque.
Yeah,
Somebody calls it a tempad, but it's basically a time controller.
Basically, his technology is so advanced that's what a tempad is.
Right.
His tempad is just that advanced. You know, his tempad is using nanotech, which then turns into whatever he needs it to be.
Correct.
He's on that next level. So time is a flat circle right there. When he shows them discovering the multiverse, it's a bunch of flat circles of universes stacked together. So time is a flat circle again. So it's this circular thing. Everything we've done, we're doomed to, history is doomed to repeat if you don't learn from it. That goes with Sylvie right here. Sylvie doesn't learn that revenge is a circle, you know, that it'll just cause the same things to happen over and over again.
That there's no end to it. And this episode has the elements of this flat circle that go reference all the way back to episode 1. At the very end of this episode, towards the end anyway, when Mobius variant, asks Loki, who are you? What is your name? When Loki runs up on him in B-15. In the very first episode, when Loki first encountered Mobius, he was just like, who are you? It's like the same conversations are happening with the same people, whether in reverse or just over and over again. In episode 1, Loki tells Mobius he's going to burn this place to the ground. In episode 5, Mobius says the same thing when they said, what are you going to do when you get back to the TVA? What does he say? I'm going to burn this place down to the ground. The circle keeps happening.
Mm-hmm. Also, in this episode, Loki has his come to God, whatever moment.
Come to Jesus,
Jesus, where he is sitting after he gets thrown out by Sylvie. He's sitting in the same room where he had his come to Jesus, come to Jesus moment earlier, where he's like, yo, with Mobius in the first episode, where he's like, yo, I don't gain pleasure from hurting people, you know? And then he's sitting there having this come to Jesus moment while it seems that time is being rewritten around him. And I love this shit because once, it's like I said, like we were talking about, it's all these ideas that I've been grappling with since a kid. But one of my favorite ones when it comes to time travel is when I had the realization one day that, like, if anyone actually created a time machine and went back before me and did something, I would have no clue.
No clue.
It would just be, that's how it's always been. Tupac survived. What do you mean? What do you mean, Tatiana? Tupac always been alive.
And that's actually my next question. Is reality being rewritten or it's just is? Because like you said, you would not know. If somebody went and changed things, you would not know. But also, this isn't the idea of things changing. The realities were already branching. There were 63 plus branches already happening as we hear from B15.
In that one section alone.
Right, not one section, right.
Yes.
And we do see from the imagery outside of the Citadel that there are billions maybe of branches at this point. It looks like, it also looks like if you look at the representations of the brain, it looks like the neurons that go through the brain, blood, the synapses and all that stuff.
Circulatory system, same.
All of that, it's all the same situation. The branches, right? Capillaries and all that other stuff. So that leads me to believe that when Sylvie, whether it's, I don't even know if she knew what really was happening, maybe she did, but when she pushed him back through the time door on the TemPad, she could have sent him to any version of where the TVA was.
Yes, but did she, right? That was one of the things that I was grappling with, that I have a lot of notes. We're about to get into that into the net section. So let's save that for the net section before. Okay. Yeah, because that was something I was very much grappling with.
Closing out the time as a flat circle theme. I can't believe we got to talk about this man, but
we do.
The white man? No, I'm joking. Yeah. But is Captain America behind all this? Why would you say that, Ben? I mean,
look, because everybody out here blaming the white woman, fully understandable at this point, fully, even though Sylvie to me is still rocking the kufi, So it was a little black on black violence in this episode, though. It happens.
Oh my God.
It happens. I was not that happy to see that, but beyond that, stellar episode. But yes, is Captain America behind all of this? All right. This is why I'm saying this, because the writers said that, and we've all thought about it, but the writers said that the plot holes in Endgame led to fodder in the writer's room for this series, right?
Correct.
One of the big plot holes, the two biggest ones that I could think of, is what happened to the timeline when Thanos came to the future from the second Thanos that we saw.
Right.
But the even bigger one, more relevant to our timeline, to the MCU, is what the fuck happens when Captain America goes back and decides to just chill, and if he does nothing, it's still different because the butterfly effect. It doesn't take much to change everything. So him being there with what's her name, he at the very fucking least at some point he should be like, "Yo, shorty, you know Hydra all up in your business, dog. You might want to do something about that." You know what I mean? Like, damn, I can't. Yo, but Bucky over there in Russia, yo, fuck, what am I gonna do about? It's changing everything. And if we're saying that he went off and started his own branch that wasn't the MCU, it's still a branch from which other branches will, and it's a massive branch.
And he's still a variant. There's several variants.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing. Like, what? Right? People had this discussion. I saw somebody saying like let's say the Loki who died in Infinity War is the main prime Loki, and the rest of the ones we've seen are variants. Wrong. There is no prime Loki. There is no prime timeline. There are just branches. This one dude decided that this is the prime timeline. So, but that don't make these any more special than any other ones. They're all the same.
And that is the thinking that started the multiversal war.
Yes. Is that like...
Which is why Kang, I don't want to say Kang potentially, but why He Who Remains insists that there has to be a sacred time. And he insists on this necessary evil, because if everyone is a special little snowflake, everyone deserves to exist, and there's going to be war.
But there's going to be war no matter what. There's war in the sacred timeline. That's the thing. What does it matter?
Not a multiverse of war, no.
Well, you know,
I mean, there's a lot of, as we said, there's a lot of bad things that happen in the sacred timeline, slavery.
But see, once again, that's because this man lights it this way. So that's why that matters. Because, like you said, there's war, there's all this other stuff, and like, let's say there was a multiversal war. There already had been one, according to him. We didn't notice it. The MCU didn't notice it. You know, shit happened. Tupac died or Tupac lived. Everyone kept going. You know, that's what I mean. It's like the multiversal war wouldn't even affect us because it's on such a level above us. It's somebody rewriting the comic book. We don't know, you know, we're just in the comic book. So once again, Captain America, going back, creates this big ass branch, right? In 1930 something. 31st century is 1,000. Yeah, right? 10,000 years later? Long time, whatever. 1,000 years later. 2,000, 3,000, right? 1,000 years later. 1,000 years of this massive branch that is now, as we see, into millions more. We have a multiverse. Uh-huh. So then we have Kang discovering this multiverse. Oh, you know, multiversal war goes down. Everything gets wrapped up in the TVA. Back to a sacred timeline. Captain America's F up gets cleaned up, and this is where we are now.
But you know what's interesting? I mean, Miss Minutes said it, but to me, Miss Minutes is just an offshoot of He Who Remains. Mm-hmm. She says, "Oh, the self-righteous Avengers." Like, was she just catering to Loki's ego about that, or is that what He Who Remains really feels about it?
Probably He Who Remains feels about it. Self-righteous. Bastards trying to fuck with time. I mean, to him, you know, that's pretty much, you know, like, yeah.
But he let it happen.
Because it didn't matter to him. And also maybe he needed it to happen. That goes to the other thing, right?
Or it was already written that it was going to happen. So it didn't matter, like you said.
We're going to get into this a little later, too, as well. But is He Who Remains a descendant of Tony Stark? Tony Stank.
Oh, Jesus.
And he needed him to discover time travel like he did in, thus leading to other things, thus leading to Captain America going back in time.
And this is the only thing where I start getting irritated about time travel, because it opens up these literally infinite possibilities and questions. And man is not supposed to do time travel. We are just incapable.
I believe we are. Go for it.
I just think we're going to fuck it up, Ben. We're going to fuck it up.
Why not? You know, we do that to everything.
Oh my God. All right.
At least it'll be interesting. You know what I mean?
The last theme is really just a conversation, which is the ending of this episode, the ending of this branch of the story. Ben,
even though it doesn't end, you know, he told you it does not end.
It is. Yeah. Take it away, Ben.
All right. The ending of this episode, at least, we can talk about, though, even though the MCU is going to keep on going for a long time, it seems. They shitting gold right now. Motherfuckers gonna have to start paying me for this.
God willing, it'll still be around for my grandkids.
Ain't no more free, Randy. Yes. Shout outs to Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Tim Burton, the director of the Planet of the Apes remake, not the latest trilogy.
The one in like early 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000s. It was actually planned to be a trilogy. It flopped big for a lot of reasons and never made it. But it does have a very iconic ending that even me at the time was like, oh, this is stupid. Until I actually recently, just the other day, watched a video on it. I was like, oh, okay, it is kind of ill, right? At the in the original Planet of the Apes, not Marky Mark, but the main character goes to the future and finds out that at the end, that's what he finds out. He sees the Statue of Liberty and he realizes he's never left Earth. That humanity fucked up Earth so bad that apes took over.
So it had an ape face, right?
No. In the original, it's just the Statue of Liberty.
The statue with just his head.
He thought he wasn't on Earth the whole time. He got in a spaceship. Right. He crashes on a planet that's run by apes. So he's like, oh, I went to some other ape planet. Yeah. And then at the end, he's like, fuck.
Is there a version of that scene where the statue has like an ape's face or something?
I think in one of the other remakes or something else, it does have an ape. I think in that one, yes, I think in the Marky Mark one, it has an ape face because what happens in the Marky Mark one is that he travels through time. And by him traveling through time, he goes to the future. The apes eventually learn his tech far into the future. They figure it out, right? Because he meets these apes. They're regular apes. I mean, they're smart apes, whatever, but they're not like, having guns or any of that stuff. So when he meets them, they get his tech. And then far deep into their future, they figure it out, right? They jump in a time machine and go far back into his, take his time machine back to the planet where it came from. But because of the rule of time travel, they go far back into the past. So further back because they're so further forward in time, right?
Okay.
So when Marky Mark goes back to his time thinking he's going home, they've already been on his timeline.
They've already changed it.
They've already changed everything. So when he goes back, the Abraham Lincoln statue now has an ape face on it, and everyone on the planet is apes. And he's like, fuck.
So this relates to that last scene with Loki when he's looking out at that vast expanse of the TVA. And instead of the 3 timekeepers, we see a statue of Kang himself, or who we purport to be Kang at this point.
And this goes to the beginning of this episode, a loop again, because when they walk into the castle, we see the 3 timekeepers and a crushed one. So at one point it was 4. It was that was just representation, whatever. But that was the Kang, the Conqueror version, not this Immortus type, older, tired of it all Kang that we see in this episode. This was the Kang, the Conqueror. So they probably knocked that statue down. Was like, all right, now we're going to put this TVA up. These 3 cats, whatever. It ain't going to be that. And so now at the end, we see the statue restored. B-15 says, does he want us to do this? They've already been working for it. They don't recognize Loki himself because this has all been changed. And now Loki might not even be a threat to the TVA anymore because it was all about getting Loki to the point to stab up. Yeah, to stab up dude so that this would all happen. And it's one of those chicken or the egg things. It's like, that's why it messes with your head. But now, all right, there are 2 possible outcomes to this finale, right?
Okay.
And really, I think it's only one. All right, but let's go through them, right?
Okay.
One is that, all right, first let me say this. Like I say, it seems that Kang, the Mortis, Jonathan Majors, goaded Sylvie into killing him, right?
I think so.
So that this would all be happening, right? Okay.
Yes.
So let's go with that. Now, the 2 possible outcomes of what we see Loki see at the end is, one is that Loki is in another one of the multiverse, one of those billions of branches that we saw, right?
Okay.
One where Kang the Conqueror rules the TVA. But this seems to not be the case, as it seems that the TVA itself is run by Kang, and they're ruling over a multiversal branching timeline instead of a sacred timeline that the TVA was doing.
And as you said, that's further corroborated by the fact that when B-15 and Mobius are looking at the TemPad, she says he's okay with, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but she says he's okay with 63 branching timelines.
Yes. Like
meaning Kang or whomever his name is. Yeah.
And like they were used to branching timelines, but maybe not 63 in this one unit at a time. But at the same time, it's like, this is what he wanted. This is what everything... Yeah, and it's like it's such a ill because we were on this linear path of the MCU, like they were going through Thanos, all this, we're all leading towards Thanos, and now it's like this has all been circled into this Kang world where all of that was just to get these people to the point where maybe Captain America goes back in time, creates this big branch of multiverse, creates the first multiversal war, then leads to the sacred timeline again. So it's all a loop right there.
So I have a question then. Doesn't that mean that the MCU, this obviously is leading into Multiverse of Madness. Doesn't that mean that all the events of the MCU have thus then changed, technically? Potentially.
No, because all of the events of the MCU can still happen in the timeline that we know, and there's to all be these other branches, because the TVA is still unknown to the MCU.
Okay.
Kang ruling, that's the ill shit. Kang is ruling the MCU right now, watching Thanos go about his thing, and like, that's cool, because I've got this branching multiverse now, which is what I wanted all the time because I'm a conqueror. So I want more realities to conquer. You know, not one sacred timeline like that tired old dude did.
Or did the variant of Kang set this whole thing up like this?
That's what I'm saying. Is this a variant of Kang who lives in that Chronopolis, the city that we saw in the quantum realm in Ant-Man? Is this the Kang the Conqueror who lives there? Or is this Immortus, the Kang we just saw, being old and tired, but knowing that everything's going to go on a loop anyway, being like, all right, kill me so we can just go back to the beginning, and eventually I'm going to be here again, because this is all going to keep happening over and over again.
This shit is wild.
It's wild. Especially it's wild because we live a limited lifespan, right? So we have 70, 80, 90 years on this earth. And it's like, because of that, it's so difficult for your brain to even conceive of time being a loop. You know, that it's not even like that, it just goes back to the beginning somehow.
Mm-hmm.
We're all doing this over and over again.
If you have potential, for some people anyway, if you have children or if you have younger siblings or if you have like nieces and nephews or whatever, like I see time repeating in my niece.
Oh yeah,
like
definitely
almost to the letter, and it's pretty freaking scary, but it goes in with what you're saying.
But it's like, yeah, you're right though, because the only reason that even the time is even different for them is because we have a system of measurement of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be a loop. You know, we wouldn't know any day from the difference, and your kids would do the same shit that you did.
This is why we should time travel. I'm telling you, we are having problems just even talking about it on a podcast. What? No.
And I've been thinking about it. Like I say, this show is one of them shows. It was like there's this movie, Pi. It's this ill flick. It's movies and shows. Like sometimes I'll see them and I'll be like, it'll hurt my head. Because it's like, oh, you're on that same shit I've been thinking about forever. You tapped into the same shit. I'm like this movie Pi is super weird for anyone who's seen it. But it was one of the movies like I was mad when I saw it. Because I was like, oh, this fucking been in my head. You know what I mean? Like, this is my life damn near on screen. Like, this is the same shit I've been thinking about all this effing time. And that's how this show felt.
For the movie recommendation.
Oh, God, Pi is a weird one. Also with Donnie Darko, we were talking about that before the show, and Kate Herron talked about it today on her Instagram. If you've never seen it, y'all, if you want to talk about time travel, if you want to talk about determinism versus free will, about everything, about a multiverse, watch Donnie Darko. It's one of the illest.
For now, we're going to talk about the characters of Loki in this episode. Of course, we've been talking a lot about He Who Remains / Kang / the Conqueror / the Ruler / the Jerk / Nathaniel Richards maybe
/ Scarlet Centurion / Immortus / descendant of Dr. Doom and Reed Richards. That's why Nathaniel Richards the name there. / Rama Tut / did I forget any?
An infinite being has an infinite amount
Immortus,
of names.
Kang. Those are the main ones.
Yeah. Well, he's a fucking Looney Tune, okay? And I loved every second of it. Jonathan Majors, just brilliant. And as I said, I mean, it was just a brilliant play of just being absolutely ridiculous, but also, as Loki says later, terrifying. Because the way he was just so goofy about everything, but he's talking about literally the balance of life and death and timelines and just existential nature things. And to be that powerful, but also just like, two sugars for you. Like he was laughing like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Like he was just going off and just doing like the wild, like the wackiest things. But he's also like this almost omniscient being.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the commenter. I'm not sure who this is, but this is on Fantastic Frankie's page. On her review of the show, they said that he was a combination of Denzel Washington from Training Day and the Joker from The Dark Knight. And I feel that was so perfect because both of them motherfuckers are wildly hilarious while being wildly terrifying.
Yeah.
And just all over the place, both of them, but also both of them super highly intelligent with a weird worldview that is also like a very relatable worldview.
And he also has kind of like he's an RPG fan because the way he expresses things, he says you can't get until the end until you've been changed by the journey. You need to get into the right mindset to finish the quest. That pisses off Sylvie because she's like, oh, you just think this is a game? Yes, this is fucking Final Fantasy to him. He calls
a comic book.
That too. He tells Loki, "You're a flea on the back of a dragon. At least you managed to hold on." Like just the coldest stuff that he's saying to them, and he's simplifying it down to a matter that we understand, and also the way that the Lokis can understand.
A flea on the back of a dragon,
right? And I mean, is that not RPG? I don't know what is Dungeons and Dragons and all that.
I mean, that's just the most next level. I ain't, a flea. Like, ugh, geez, like you nothing. Be you? I mean, the dragon. They're basically saying that. And once again, all this shit is goading. He's like, you ain't nothing. The same thing that people have been telling Loki throughout this whole thing. You're irrelevant to this story. You're the flea. She's the dragon.
And he expresses who he may be. Kang expresses that he's afraid of himself. Essentially, right? Or that's what he tells them. Who knows what the truth is, right? This is going to be a setup. He's afraid of himself because he knows there's worse versions of him out there, which is why he's like, you may not want to kill me. This might get bad for you. And then also gives the question, is he the evil one? He questions that himself. Like, he's not really evil. Like, he's a necessary point in keeping everything together to the way he feels is right. And also, as I mentioned before, he's just fucking powerful as hell. He's the one who figured out how to weaponize Goliath. Once again, this thing that can consume time and space and reality, he weaponized it. And again, just decrees that he's ended the multiverse of war. And as you mentioned, Ben, you said he might be a descendant of Tony instead of Reed Richards. Now, in the comic book, Kang is a descendant of Reed Richards, right?
Yes, and probably has some Dr. Doom genes in there too, because some of Dr. Doom kids and Tony and Reed Richards kids got together, whatever. But in the MCU, there are a lot of hints that he is a descendant of Tony. I will say I don't know because damn near 90% of villains in the MCU emanate from Tony, and it would be wild that yet another one, even after he's dead, it's still his fault. But Tony is the person in our present time and day who discovers time travel. Tony is also the most narcissistic of all, as Kang Immortus refers to himself in his variants as being very narcissistic. So once again, this goes back to that thing like I was saying earlier, that Kang Immortus, whoever, influenced all of this because he knew that he needed his descendant to make time travel. And he, that's why it was okay for Thanos to do all these things, because without that, there's no time travel.
I don't know how many times I gotta say how fucked up this is.
Damn, boy. And I just once again, I just want to shout out Jonathan Majors. I know we've said it several times, but he just came on and just every little thing, like from him smiling when they opened the elevator and his semi-joy and a bit of confusion because he can't believe this is actually finally happening. We're getting to that point where he's like, yo, in a second, I'm not going to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So all that anticipation. And then the way he talks to them, to grow up, Sylvie. It's just so epic. And we're all villains. And not what you were expecting. Talking directly to the audience right there.
Directly to the audience.
Just so many little brilliant things that were done in this performance. And I just can't wait to see this dude keep doing this and eating up. And also just the way that we've already seen such an ill version of Immortus, because he embodied all those things. He embodied a Kang who had ended the multiversal war, who lived all this time, who done all this stuff.
Who is Immortus for the people who don't know who Immortus is?
Okay. Immortus is basically a guise, I think is the word of Kang, where at the end of basically after Kang has done a lot,
after Kang has pretty much how this version says he's so tired, he's been at it forever. Yeah. Immortus is basically the one that has been through all of this stuff. He's the OG of all OGs. He's tired. He's over it.
I just wanted to give, in the comics that I grew up reading, there was the Council of Kangs, right? And they started this big fight, and they're all killing each other because they all want to be the one true Kang. Right. And then you come to find out that it's really Immortus who's already done this over and over again. He's been eliminating Kangs for a long time because he wants to be the one true, and he's basically tired of it. A lot of people might know this reference of Council of Kangs from Rick and Morty, because Rick and Morty features the Council of Ricks. which is a shout out to the Council of Reed Richards, because there's a Council of Reeds in the Marvel universe as well, because they're the smartest and they travel through dimensions, and so they've met their variants, and so they're going around. So it's like the Council of Reeds was a shout out to the Council of Kane. So it all goes, it's all circular once again. The one who remains really put the ball in Sylvie's court. And speaking of balls, support for For All Nerds is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawn Mower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code FORALLNERDS at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people in the world to try the new 4.0, and I'm blown away by the performance. The craftsmanship, the details, it's next level, folks. Look, we all know that pruning the sacred timeline is a dangerous job, so make sure you have the proper tools to keep the jewels oh so fresh and oh so clean. Get the Lawnmower 4.0, and let me tell you from personal experience, the light on the end, it's super clutch. You don't need Wolverine going berserker rage. You need a tool with precision engineering. And the blade on the new 4.0, it might as well be made from vibranium, the way it keeps the strength of the Black Panther flowing. It doesn't matter if you're a Loki or a Sylvie, the lawnmower is good to go for everyone, just like For All Nerds. So, before you do like Sylvie and cut up the one who remains, head over to manscaped.com. Use the code FORALLNERDS for 20% off and free ship.
And speaking of Sylvie, played by the Sylvia Di Martino. I have just one question maybe it was just my personal confusion. She tells Loki she was pruned before he even existed. What's she talking? When was she pruned?
It was an attempted pruning.
An attempt to, I mean, her timeline was pruned, but when
I mean, that's good enough, ain't it?
Okay.
Like, you can't go home again, fam. Like, you know.
Can't go back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, like Korg said, you can rebuild it, I'm sure. Oh, no, it's completely gone. No.
Now, for me, she and again, like I said, there was just something, her rage, her blind rage, like bothered me a bit, because like it's like I get it because I believe in revenge, but also just like damn,
because I believe in revenge.
Yeah, but it's also like damn. And again, this is I'm the God looking down at the comic book, so I know all, right?
Yep, yeah, that's the thing.
My perspective is different.
Your perspective is different. You can see where this is going to lead.
Well, from
you
this
can see what the end of the episode is.
From this perspective, she looked like a Karen, okay? Because she demanded to see the manager.
Yep.
She wants her way, and she refused to listen to reason.
Look, I was trying to debate it on Twitter. I listed him, and I was like, wait. Wait. Yeah, I do want to point out that we've been trying to figure out what was her moment, and I saw this in a YouTube video. I want to say,
in what way?
That made them snatch her up.
Oh, what was her Nexus event?
And I saw this. I want to shout out Screen Crush. They were talking about it probably was her being like, look at the Valkyrie. I want to be a Valkyrie. And they're like, no, you got to be a Loki. You got to go. You got to go. You know, you can't do that. Loki or nothing.
Anything but a Loki.
Loki. Because we need Lokis to lead to a multiverse.
The Kang or whoever is really in charge of all this needs her.
Needs her to go on this path of revenge.
Got it. That's so fucked up.
Yeah, that's fucked up right now. Now you feel like, but at the same time, everybody's life sucks in some way or another. You know what I mean? There's certain people, they're born rich, and everything, but they still ain't the best life. Like, you still gonna have problems. We don't understand them because,
money helps though.
Money helps those problems. Don't get me wrong. Yes, some people's lives are worse. Her life is pretty bad. What about a person who was just born right when that dragon came through New York and smashed the tower and they were sitting in it?
Damn.
Life over. Didn't even know life. Dragon came through. It was done. Scarlet Witch and them. I mean, Scarlet Witch, a prime example. My life is terrible. Let me go terrorize this town. Monica, life is terrible. I'm good. Let me go to therapy. You know, like.
Well, okay. Well,
Sylvie could have gone to therapy.
As we see during that conversation, like Loki was really losing it at that point. Like he was like, how can you not see it? How can you not get it? And it's clear, like, she's incapable of trusting. And he says in turn, I mean, he says it like he says it because he's irritated about it, but it's also maybe true. He may be incapable of being trusted. Fucked up. And again, this is about, like I said, I feel her and I also don't feel her. It's both, right? I'm just like, so you kill the guy in charge, you got your revenge, now what? Like, I mean, when she explained her whole plan to Loki episodes ago, Loki was like, so you're just going to kill them and walk away? And she was just like, yeah. But I'm just like, to me, like, there's no, that's to me, that's not it's not clean. And maybe that's why for me, as a person who believes very strongly in reason and in some ways, I guess it's a TVA type of thought process, right? Like you have to be, it has to be cleaned and wrapped up and with a bow. It's like, what's your next brilliant move? Like I said this in the notes. I'm like, think, Mark, think. Like, you know, a very invincible way. Like, what are you thinking? Like, what's supposed to happen next? Like, you are told all of this guy stands in the way of order and complete chaos, and you go later for you, kill him, I'm out. Well, you don't even say I'm out. You just sit there like, what next?
But once again, Mark's the hero of our story, speaking of Invincible, and he has no plan other than finish high school and survive that day. You know? He's
not, once again, he is not in a situation where he has to make a decision that is the end of the world as you know it, or the end of the multiverses as you know it, or I'm going to go to high school. That's not the same.
But see, once again, is it the end of anything? Like, that's
no,
the
it's not the end of anything.
It's not the end of anything. There is no end.
From a person on that level, on level 1, where you're told all this information, you go, yeah, I'm going to kill you anyway. You don't see any of the other levels. That's okay?
Yes.
She didn't want to think about it. I was with Loki when he was like, can you just think through this for a minute?
Them other levels ain't got nothing to do with me. You know, what I got to deal with right now is killing
I'm
this
Loki
man.
Lofson and you're Loki Lofditter. You're Sylvie, rather.
Yes.
Because I feel like you're the Sylvie in this. Because I'm just like, yo, let's just think about this real quick. And you're like, chaos!
Yes, I choose violence. Uncompromising, unmitigated violence.
Well, let's also think about this. What if Sylvie did decide to think about it and also run it together with Loki, right? Would it be a good balance? Because and you right, yes or no, but technically that was my next question, yes or no. But they are each other's foils, they are each other's mirrors, and like you even see it in the way like how they sit with each other. They're the mirror opposite of each other. The way they think is different, but because of that level, the level or lack thereof of the trust, that's why it wouldn't work.
One, when they're sitting there, like you were pointing out, one has a gold weapon, one has a silver weapon, but there's also a crack in the ground between them because they are already split at that point. And the ill thing about what they say about the trust thing, right? He says, you can't trust anyone and I can't be trusted. That's saying the same thing.
It
like,
is
if I can't be trusted, then I can't trust anyone. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Loki. It's all the same thing. Loki, you know? Like
it's all the same. Doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Listen, Loki Lofson, played by the man himself, Tom Hiddleston. But this Loki Lofson, this version, to me, is the biggest simp of all time.
Wow. Disrespect.
Remember, I told you, I laughed when he was going to say, I love you, and got pruned. You even laughed too, Ben, I mean.
I damn sure did.
That shit was funny to me. And then he's just like, please stop, think about it. He put his neck on the line, literally put his neck on the line to her saying, please don't do this, please don't do this. And then she gives him the kiss, and like all men, y'all get the kiss. And it's just like, oh, everything else doesn't matter. And uses it against
It takes
him.
a little bit more than a kiss, folks. Keep it real.
You know, hey, listen, we're talking about in this context, okay?
Yeah.
But it's just, and again, also simp, but also it's like, is this, once again, this is, as we talking about circle and things repeating, is this Loki still playing the loser role?
Damn sure is. Yeah, I mean, hold up that L and put it on your forehead, you know? Like, hold that one, fam. I mean, personally, we talked about this with Kate. I was disgusted when they kissed. I was disgusted. I'm gonna
so
screw up my mouth.
this kiss and this episode disgusted you?
for 5 seconds. And then when she pushed his punk ass through the door and stabbed my man's up.
Yeah. I wasn't disgusted. I was just confused, as always, when I am about their relationship. I was just like this, like, okay. Because remember, it's not like they're related. So it's not like incest or anything.
No, that part don't distress me. Just the fact that they're, that she was here.
It's like they're related, but they're not.
Like, no, I don't care about that. Me and, whatever. Game of Thrones, we've already, go back to Castle Black, folks. We've already seen how I care about that.
No, that's straight up incense, sir.
It happens. It's why we're here right now.
Anyway.
I mean, you want to talk about branches? Right. We all got some of each other in it. Right. Anyway.
And
Anyway, wait a minute. On this point of simping and, this whole, like, them kissing and everything. No, I wasn't distressed by that, but I was just more distressed by, the fact that I thought she was actually going for it. And then she pushes his ass through and is like, nah, I'm not about that life. I love it
I'm not
all.
you.
I'm not you, homeboy. Rapper, I'm not you. Shout out to Push.
And he was freaking hurt. Pain 1993 hurt. Like, Sylvie was to me, this version anyway, Sylvie was the first person he truly, completely trusted. The first person that he put his, like he experiences this completely different level of love, and he got rejected by her.
I don't think he did. And I think that's his effing problem.
Because, you don't think he was hurt when he was sitting there having his life story? He was hurt.
But see, like you said, simping. Because he just said 2 seconds ago, I can't be trusted.
But he said that out of pain. People say all sorts of shit out of pain. Because remember, he was still trying to convince her, and she was all, you just want the throne, and you saw what he did. He does what people do that are in pain or got hurt. They turn into sarcasm. They turn into saying painful things back to that other person. They're just reflecting the pain back to them. He was like, oh yeah, remember when he said that? Oh yeah, that's all I wanted. I just wanted the throne. Oh yeah, you couldn't believe me. Like, that was pain. Mm-hmm. That was 100% pain. And even when they were on Lamentis, when they were talking about, have you been with anybody and you have anybody you fucked with, he was just like, he explained, essentially he had flings, he has people he's gotten close with, but they never lasted. And now you see this happening with Sylvie, and that's why it's just, once again, the flat circle stuff is happening again. There is, like, does he ever, and that's why I'm also one of the many things he's probably thinking, like, do I ever get to experience love and happiness?
I mean, maybe if you weren't destroying New York, you would have had to experience that. Choices we make. Like I say, Loki was here for some cut, and Sylvie was here for some cut. It was just different types of cut up. They were both looking for cut up, but okay. one got what they wanted, boy.
Well, we'll see what happens with him season 2. How he gets he is in a pickle.
In a pickle, yeah, in a pickle.
Spicy pickle. Miss Minutes is a creepy bitch. When I say I jumped when she popped up with the hey y'all, I said, oh shit. Like, I just did not expect that whatsoever.
You gotta post this. We gotta see that moment.
You'll see it.
Yeah, 2 moments we gotta see.
You'll see it. You see her give she tries to sell the dream to Sylvie and Loki about, oh, y'all could go back in the timeline together, live your life, you could get what you want. How about, Loki, if you win the Battle of New York, you could kill Thanos. You can get the Infinity Gauntlet. You can get the Throne of Asgard. And then to Sylvie, she says a lifetime of happy memories. And I'm like, but that's not what, that's what she would like, but is that really all she wants?
Is it though?
She names so many things, and then she says to Sylvie, oh, here's a lifetime happy. And I know maybe that means everything to her, right? Because she's had a lifetime of horrible memories of literal apocalypses and being chased and not being safe and no peace.
You can even kill Thanos. That shit was great. And not only that shit was motherfucking like Price is Right when they're showing the Showcase Showdown. You know, you get a car, you get a house, you can even kill Thanos.
Behind door number 3. And you can also, she could potentially be, like you say, like, who's controlling Miss Minutes, right? Like, how does she have all this information, all this other stuff? She could be a familiar of Kang, right? Like, depending on which one it is, it could be, as you say, the Kang who lives in Chronopolis. Maybe he's the one who's controlling this conversation with Miss Minutes and all this other stuff.
Maybe he's controlling it all. Maybe he's the one behind the one who's behind it all. The man
behind the one
man.
behind the one.
Yeah, the man.
Yo, dog, I heard you like Kang.
So we put a Kang in your Kang. I just love how if there is a Kang, or even if it isn't a different Kang, even if it is just, I mean, it's all gonna be Jonathan Majors in the end.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Majors, sent Ravonna to, what you doing? Say,
what you doing?
Yeah.
Ravonna Renslayer, played by Gugu Mbatha Raw. Regardless of all of the foolishness she's doing, she clearly has a soft spot for Mobius. And I actually also read that the producers, they wanted to go into her characterization a lot more, but they didn't have time because of the pandemic. And they particularly, they said they want to go into the relationship between Mobius and Ravonna. And again, that leads me back to what I said in the episode 5 review, where I'm like, maybe forget the shipping part, but like, was there a deeper relationship that they had as variants? And it was a relationship that, as we know, time being a circle, it's just something that always kept repeating. And she has come to understand this, because I fully believe Ravonna knows so much more than she's letting on.
I don't feel like she did. I think that's what she says in this. Like, I feel like now she might know a little bit more than she's letting on. But I feel like through this series, she didn't. She was just as brainwashed as the rest. Like, we see her variant. We see...
To a degree, because she at least knew about... And again, I don't know if that was the only time, but she knew, like, what C20 was saying about the whole variant stuff. She knew about that. She's the one who deposed C20 when C20 came, when they got her back. And remember that conversation they had that Mobius was watching?
What if somebody wiped her brain right after that too? Thing is, like Mobius said, I don't.
She knew because when Mobius confronts her about it, she doesn't deny that she knew.
True. Well, I mean, a certain amount of order has to be maintained around here. Y'all just run around. You leave the inmates in charge of the prison. No, somebody got to be the warden.
Well, she's acting like this warden right now, and also we see that Miss Minutes via Kang, or He Who Remains, gives her files that she didn't ask for.
Yep.
A few things. Are those a file? Like, I think she may have asked. I'm not sure if she asked for the files pertaining to the end or the beginning of time, or
both.
I don't remember quite what she asked for. Maybe that was it.
Both of them.
Okay. What did he give her, do you think? Did he give her the script to what was about to happen? Like, because, and the reason why this is one of the questions is because when Mobius in there, Mobius threatens her like, "Oh, I ain't gonna let you go." I'm like, first of all, Mobius, you ain't with it. You no.
You're not about this life, home.
You're not. She says to Mobius that even with that time baton, he is of no danger to her. Yeah. Now, yes, from a literal perspective, just from sheer physicality, her training, she used to be a hunter after all. Yes, she got hands on Mobius. But also she's saying he is of no danger because she already knows what's about to happen.
I mean, I'd go with that too, because Kang is definitely like, yo, come through. This was going to happen. And I tell you, like, he might have sent her the script and that alone will fuck your head up.
True. But also, back to what I was saying about her knowing more than she lets on, she know their relationship. They have a very special relationship, she keeps saying. Is it always preordained, if you will, that he would, like, he can't do anything to her?
Yeah.
To stop her or hurt her or whatever.
No. All this is preordained. And it's funny, going back to the prison, I had this argument in prison, and it was like I know it's funny we had these arguments, but we had 6 people in the cell, and one person just could not get it. He was like, no, I make choices, I do this. I'm like, yes, you do. But at the same time, you can't see the end of your choices. Someone else can. So to someone else, you're just a character in a book.
Well,
you get to make your choices, but the book's written. All these choices happened at once.
Whatever information she was given, we see her searching for the truth, free will, the person behind it all, whatever it is. And again,
searching for her boot thing.
Her eventual boot, at least from the comics. Right now in the comics, she's known as Terminatrix, and that's basically the I don't want to say mantle, but that's what she is in terms of like she don't fuck with Kang at this point. Okay, she knows everything. Go ahead, Ben.
Terminatrix is also, that was a 90s storyline. It's right now, Kang is about to have a new origin story in Marvel, so the comics are about to change everything again.
Right. But at least from I'm bringing it up because there's just to bring up some backstory about what she may be doing and why this all will potentially converge into, again, their fucked up relationship between Kang and Ravonna.
Oh, that's where it's going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely going towards the Terminatrix shit, just as you say the name, Terminatrix, it's 90s. This was when comics were out of control and Ravonna just being Ravonna, because back in the day, if you look at her costume, it's like this real, 60s, 70s flowing dress and these big goggles. I
saw the image on Google. I was like, what?
And the head and the headwear. It's really 60s, 70s shit. And so, in the 90s, they're like, that's a little goofy Terminatrix, and it's like, yeah, come on, Todd. Let her be Ravonna.
Terminate your timeline.
Yeah, she was never Ravonna, even Renslayer when I was reading. It was just Ravonna. And then it was like, no, Renslayer, that's a dope ass name.
But that name is even very 90s, Renslayer.
Yeah, it is. You can just hear the 90s in it,
Yeah.
Extreme.
We also see via B-15 bringing them to Fremont, Ohio in 2018. She shows the Minutemen and the Hunters, and basically everyone finds out the truth, at least at that point.
We wasted all that time about that damn high school.
Right. All that time, remember that pen that Mobius was referring to, and you saw it zoom in, it said FDR High School.
Mm-hmm.
Same school, that same pen Ravonna has is because that's where one of her variants is. She's a principal or a vice principal of that school.
Yep.
And then in that scene where they're there in the office, there's a diploma on the wall behind the desk that's from the Ohio State University. And the name of the recipient of the diploma is Rebecca Tournement or Tourmanet. Tourmanet. And in the comics, that was an alias used by Ravonna as she was hiding from Kang.
Yep. Go Buckeyes.
Rounding up the characterizations, we have obviously Mobius, Mother effing Mobius, played by Owen Wilson. He ain't here for the shits no more. He questions why Ravonna is still here for the shits. And he does not agree with taking away people's free will. He actually suggests to Ravonna that they work together and build a TV into something better, but of course she refuses.
They bugging. What is this free will? I mean, the Avengers have everybody seems to have plenty of choices.
But Ben, it's like just like you said, when the veil has been lifted off your eyes, you gonna start doing some things differently. Like if someone told you everything you know is a lie, or here's how it really works, you're gonna go one of two ways. You're gonna just accept it and keep your life as is, or you're gonna flip the fuck out. And me myself personally, I feel like you are the type that might flip out.
No, you're absolutely 100% wrong, because I've long since accepted that this is life. I've long since accepted.
So if someone lifts the veil and says, "Hey, Ben, this is actually how it really is," you can do something different. You're just going to keep living your life the way you've lived. You're not going to change? That's what I'm asking.
I try and change every day because I've already accepted that that's life. That's what I'm keep saying. I've already accepted that there's a man behind it who wrote a book that I can't see. I've accepted that if someone had a time machine and was going back in time right now, changing things, it has nothing to do with me. I've accepted that there's probably a massive conspiracy behind most of the things in the world. I can't change that. All three of those things I've listed, I can't change. All I can do is change myself and worry about what happens to me in this time I have on this earth and do what I can. That's how I live. Because like I say, I've been thinking about this stuff since I was a kid, so it's not like new hat to me. Somebody was like when that's how when people are like, oh, the Matrix and Agent Smith. I was like, well, Agent Smith sounds kind of right to me because this is something I've thought about since I was a kid. Humanity is a blight on the earth. That's something that I've thought since I was a kid. It's not a new idea to me. I've always thought about that because I had this idea when I was a kid. I was like, humanity is the only animal in nature that goes against nature.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that as a kid. I was like, we lay down concrete. No other, because I was a Boy Scout, so I did a lot of camping and I'd be in nature and I'd be like, the squirrel builds his home there and it's still a tree.
It doesn't interfere with everything else.
We built a home there and it's destroyed, And I was like, damn, we wild. And so when I saw the Matrix, I was like, word up, Agent Smith, get rid of these cats.
Agent Smith calls us a virus.
And I fully agree. And people are like, but you live here. It's just like when I say men are trash. I'm one of them. I still got to accept it. Humanity's a virus. I'm one of them. I don't want humanity to end. But if it happened, it is what it is. So no, wild out? No. I already think because that's what I don't like. I get Sylvie's, particular form of rage because she feels that her life should have been different. And that's how a lot of people feel. But life sucks for everyone. Like I said, it doesn't matter who's running it. It's still going to be life. You still going to have to deal with things that happen. That's what she's not getting. That's what people aren't getting. It doesn't matter. God is like, we're like the TVA, but a lot of people pray to an indifferent God. You know what I mean? Life still goes on. I don't believe in an indifferent. I believe in a loving universe. But if someone was like, the universe is not about love, the universe is about this, I'm like, oh, well, it don't affect me none. My life is still going to be the same.
Okay. I have to accept that. Okay.
Mephisto runs everything.
Okay.
Can he make sure we don't destroy the earth while I'm here? Since he runs everything, that's what I was like. I stopped believing in hell because a lot of people go through hell on earth. So what could be worse? Life, this is it. I believe in an afterlife, but I don't believe in that like your actions are gonna send you to hell. What? No. For how?
So what?
Like how, fam? It's to be eternal fire. But some people have lived life on earth in eternal fire. Mm-hmm. And it sucked for them. And then they die and they go to hell, or they die and go to heaven. No, nigga, this life is the life you have to live. I need to appreciate this shit.
Yeah. Lastly, we have the TVA. Shout outs to @MuseumMammy on Twitter. That's Kimberly Drew. She had a viral tweet go out where she says, is the TVA actually a Black-owned business? And wow, if that's not the truth. It technically is it not? Owned and operated.
I mean, yeah, but is he Black?
That's the other question, right? Is he Black? At least in this. With the TVA, as we saw when Loki returns, it exists, but technically a variant of what he knew. Or as we were questioning, is it just something that was rewritten? Is he just in a different timeline of it or what? Because this version of Mobius and B-15 don't know who he is. The statue have changed to Kang's face instead of the timekeeper. And again, further along our thought that perhaps in this world, it's Kang wants this multiversal place to be, or multi-timeline place to be the thing. Because I noticed and again, maybe this could have already been there, but as Loki is running around, one of the clocks in the halls has 10-minute hands on it. Yep. And I'm like, wasn't it just a normal clock before with 2 hands? So having a clock like that, having that type of symbolism throughout means that's the world you accept.
Yes. Like I said, I debated it with myself and y'all just heard it, but I'm fully in the camp of what we see in the end of this is we have abandoned, because like we said before, it used to be Back to the Future. Well, it used to be they said this in Endgame, Back to the Future is bullshit. I can say that right. We're past the YouTube remark. Yeah. That was the one time they cursed in it. Is Back to the Future is some bullshit. Because what they're saying is in Back to the Future, when Marty goes back in time, things that he does affects his timeline. He almost erases himself because he makes it where his parents don't meet. And he sees himself, even in the past, fading away as these things are happening. And his sister fades out of the Polaroid that he's been carrying from the future at one point. And then she fades back in when his parents get back together. So that's why Rhodey in Endgame was like, yo, why don't we just go back to Thanos? And they're like, that doesn't matter. That just creates a branch. That doesn't
another
change.
One that's gonna still do it.
Yeah, that branch goes off in this direction where Thanos is dead. But in our main timeline, Thanos is still, he's still, you can't, you killed him, but the people in the present are still gone. You kill baby Thanos, sure, but your present remains the same. See? You go back, it's not even that there's a branch, right? I got that wrong. Sorry, let me do this again. Right? It's not that there's a branch. It's that there's one timeline. You go back in time, you murk baby Thanos. But baby Thanos has already grown up in the future and changed and done what you're trying to prevent him from doing. You can't change that. It's not the Back to the Future rules. In Back to the Future, if you go back and murk baby Thanos, your whole future changes. He never existed. The whole future changes. So what we are in now is that they've eliminated that rule of Endgame because that was the rule, because there was the sacred timeline being maintained by the TVA. So there were no branches. There were none of that. Now we're not in that. We're in a multiverse of madness where Kang is the ruler. most people, the world is still going on just like it went before. They have no knowledge that Kane suddenly took over. Maybe people like Doctor Strange are gonna sense shit because he's aware of, so he'd be like, fuck,
But to everybody else, this is just how things are.
This is how things work. And like we said, for most of the MCU, they don't even know the TVA exists.
Absolutely, yeah. You would never know until someone lifted the veil.
Yeah, and so the veil, what's underneath the veil changed, but the veil is still there.
Yeah. And we do see for the audience anyway, they're accused that this is we're not in Kansas anymore or our perceived Kansas is because in that shot of Loki when he's running back through the TVA and it's the camera spinning around him, you see that wild clock. It's just because he's on the other side of the glass, but that's intentional. You see that the numbers on the wall are backwards. At least as the shot comes around him, you see that all the numbers are backwards, that he's in a different place, he's somewhere else. And he also seems lost, which further indicates that things have changed.
Yep. And like we said, they didn't recognize him. They are accepting of a he running it. Like they said, it's just Tupac is alive now. It's like, what do you mean? Tupac's always been alive.
Right.
We've always had Kang as the ruler. What do you mean?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? A TV, a Time Lord. That's what they'd be like, what? What timekeepers? What? Get this loony out of here.
And finally, we have our Easter eggs, inspiration, music. The opening shot, Ben-Amin mentions, is counterclockwise as they enter the hall. What does that signify, Ben-Amin?
Well, shout out to our social media manager. She is love itself because she was the first one to point this out to us in our group chat that the shot is actually going counterclockwise. It's going against time. It's just like we saw before when we had that shot where things turned upside down. And you went through veils where we were going through it. Now we're going through where like time is grinding to a halt. We're at the end of time. It's going counterclockwise, the reverse of what we're used to. And also shit is just turned sideways.
Yeah.
Like everything we've been used to,
it's on his head.
I flip
it's
you.
Sideways.
Yeah, I flip you.
I noticed when Sylvie and Loki first entered, like I'm calling it the Great Hall of that Citadel, the statues have clocks for faces.
Yes. And that also might be a reference to the comic books because certain members of the TVA are faceless in the comic books. Like the faceless statues, like these clocks, because you see the one has no face. They got the clocks, all that. And also the time is a bit more mysterious than we think it is.
Oh, this is true.
Yep.
And the double entendre of a watch face, a clock face, a face of a person, all that stuff. And I noticed he who remains throughout this encounter, he's eating an apple. And to me, that was a reference to that whole idea of the forbidden fruit and the Garden of Eden and God and Adam and Eve. And in this case, like when you have this the fruit of knowledge is what he's eating, right? Like you have the Garden of Eden, which could be the Citadel, right? It's the point where in the Garden there's no such concept of time, right? They're just there, and that's where they've been chosen to live in paradise.
There
right?
it is.
The apple again, that forbidden fruit that came from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is the knowledge of everything that Kang has. The serpent, the devil, Kang potentially in this case, he tempts Eve. Eve is of Adam. Sylvie and Loki are variants of each other. Like it all tracks throughout.
Preach my sister.
It's just I was just like, okay, that was clever how they did that. And there is one more item then.
Yeah, but also with the apple, I want to shout out Screen Crush again because I saw this in their video because I'd forgotten this moment. An apple was used in Doctor Strange when it was showing the effects of time.
The time,
because he was going through the apple's lifespan and showing that it's like
they actually use that in a lot of different movies.
Yep. But I love how Doctor Strange did it because he's like, I can just go back and forth through an apple's lifetime. I can flip the pages because I'm looking down at this apple just the same way that, Kang is looking down at us. I can flip the page to see where this is going. But that is great that you said it because Kang is definitely representing the devil in this. Adam and Eve, and he tempts Eve with the knowledge of what it's all about. And then that's like, and then also to go to the Garden of Eden, it's like the knowledge of everything because they're there, like you said, out of time. They don't even have knowledge that they're naked. They have no knowledge of none of this stuff.
Nothing.
Knowledge of
no
sin,
concept of that.
Of the idea of evil and good. It just is.
And then when everything goes down, what happens? They get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Like you said, sin and all this other stuff. What happens once Kang is killed or he who remains killed? The multiverse of madness.
They get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. They're in the multiverse of madness. And just like in the Bible, women are getting blamed for it all.
Right.
Now look, I ain't putting it on Sylvie. That's all I'm saying. I put this on Loki just as much. I put it on everybody. You know, I put it on Captain America. I put it on everybody.
Sylvie is Loki and Loki is Sylvie.
Yeah, and it's all and all of these pages. It just goes back to like it's the Star-Lord thing. It's like, yeah, Star-Lord effed up, but so did Thor when he ain't cut that head off. You know, like all these cats is idiots and monsters. And that's pretty privileged, and Chris Pratt's non-privileged.
There's people who think he's pretty. That has nothing to do for me. It's nothing to do with pretty.
Yeah, but for you,
don't like
that's
Star-Lord because he's an idiot.
Once again, if Denzel Washington or Denzel's son or Jonathan Majors was playing Star-Lord,
if any of them were playing Star-Lord and did the same exact dumb shit that he did, I still would be irritated too.
Irritated, not dislike them.
Does not with dislike him.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll use the same word. So since you want to try to catch me in nothing. Dislike. It doesn't matter if he was pretty or not, Ben or me. Dislike.
I don't know. Jonathan Majors was a straight monster all through Lovecraft Country, and people loved his ass.
All right, finish your last point, sir.
I mean, a hard body, torturous monster.
And I agree with you on that, but finish your last point, sir.
Oh, he took his shirt off. All right. The circles that we see behind Immortus when he's sitting there, the big circle, they're all containing
He Who Remains,
Immortus, Kang, Scarlet, all right, whatever. Triskelions. I'm Triskelion. I've never been sure about that word. It's actually used in the MCU before because that's what the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters, the one that got destroyed in Captain America Winter Soldier was called, and that comes from the Ultimates comic book.
Okay.
But this is the symbol itself is derived from the Greek word trisekeli. I don't know ancient Greek. Trisekeli.
Three.
Tree. Trisekeli. Meaning three legs. The trisekeli or triple spiral is a complex ancient Celtic symbol. Norse, Celtic, all that close by. Movement or motion is believed to signify energies, in particular with this symbol, the motion of action, cycles, progress, revolution, and competition.
And when I was saying try, I wasn't correcting your pronunciation. I was saying literally like the word triangle, try meaning three. And, putting that triangle up. Putting the triangle up. It's the Rock, like putting that triangle up. Like we said, cycles, like we think of the recycling symbol. Yep. It's essentially a triangle, so
everything goes around. It's all flat circle. And so when we see the last shot we have of Immortus, he who remains, one who reigns, is him dead in front of this circle, showing you that, this was all part of it. It was all part of the scheme. We're just going on this bigger circle to get to Kang.
And so it was written.
Nas.
We get a mid-credit scene that confirms that Loki as a series will return for a season 2. I screamed and said, yo, this is great, awesome. And then today we got some kind of sad news that Kate Herron is not going to be returning to direct season 2. She said in a conversation, I think it was Hollywood Reporter, but she said in a conversation with them that no, she's not coming back for season 2. When she signed on to this, she always saw this as just being kind of a one and done thing. She would like to work with Marvel in the future on other MCU projects, if it goes, if it aligns with her ministry at that point. But, I'm sad, because she did a fantastic job.
Fantastic.
Right. What we do know is it's expected that Michael Waldron, the head writer here, will return for season 2. So at least the spirit, of the writing will still be in the same vein of what we enjoyed. And we'll just see it from the vision of a different director.
There it is. But, salute to Kate. Once again, if you haven't heard or seen our interview with Kate, make sure you go to SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify. It don't matter. Look up the THEE Kate Herron interview with For All Nerds, Views from the 616, where all kind of information, and not only just information about Loki, but just gems and jewels about life were dropped in that interview. Is one of our favorites. Yet another instant classic. And thank you, Kate. Thank you, Michael Waldron. Thank you, everyone who was involved in season 1. Y'all did that because.
Yes. And we are finished with our finale episode review of Loki, episode 6.
3 down.
All time, always. We appreciate you for being with us, for learning with us, for being fan with us. Thank you to everybody in the chat at Twitch, twitch.tv/4allnerds. Make sure you're following us there. Make sure you're subscribed to us on your favorite podcast platform. We are on everything. There is no excuse that you cannot find us. We are there. Look for 4 All Nerds in order to listen to Views from the 616, all platforms. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're following us on the socials at 4 All Nerds. You can follow me personally at Tatiana King and follow DJ Ben Amin at DJ Ben Amin. Twitter and the Facebook, not the Facebook, but the Twitter and the IGs, because I don't use Facebook. What else? Please, Ben Amin is wearing a beautiful, beautiful Mohawk Storm on a motorbike pink shirt. If you like that and you want it on a pink shirt, or you want it on a white shirt or a green shirt, or maybe you want it on a phone case, maybe you want it on a mask, whatever you like, you can get that along with your Views from the 616 mask or the design on any other type of merchandise at our TeePublic page, teepublic.com/stores/4allnerds. And as always, we love and appreciate our Patreon fam. Thank you. You keep us going, just like all the people who hit us up on the TeePublic. Y'all are keeping us going. Y'all make sure we can pay our staff, our team, making sure that we can get to go to and do incredible things just like this podcast, and go to really cool places and interview really cool people. Like, everything you do goes right back into the show. What is it? Patreon.com/4allnerds. Doesn't matter what tier you're on, you get special privileges for being part of the Patreon fam. You may have heard at the top of the show, we've partnered with Lootcrate. You can get 15% off a Lootcrate box subscription. Just use the code FANSHOW15. That's FANSHOW15, the number 1 and the number 5. That's how you get your percentage off. Again, 15% off your subscription for Lootcrate. Ben, anything else?
Make sure you join us on twitch.tv/4allnerds every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got the Loki finale that you're probably watching right now on twitch.tv/4allnerds. Thank you all for joining us throughout this whole Loki series. The chat has been super lit every week. Thank y'all so much for making that happen. I love it. It's one of my favorite times every week. That's Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/4allnerds. We'll be back next Monday with the all-star review of the first season, because you know how we do. We always gather up our all-stars, our panel, and have a big discussion about the whole season. We did it for Winter Soldier. We did it for WandaVision, and we're going to do it for Loki. So we'll be right back here, 1 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you follow. If you have the means, hit that subscribe button. You get all kind of dope emotes. I added more emotes, so you get even more emotes when you're on Twitch and you're subscribing. So go ahead and do that. We're on there DJing. We got my brother Uncolored Page on there gaming. Mm-hmm. We got Tatiana still coming soon to the gaming. I'm just there sparingly. We got all kind of things going on. So make sure you join us on twitch.tv/4allnerds, 1 p.m. Eastern for the reviews. And just make sure you're hitting that follow and that subscribe for all that good stuff.
Yes. Thank you, Chica. Thank you, Luna. We love you. Thank you, Uncolored Page. Thank you so much.
Word up. And speaking of good stuff, make sure you use the code 4allnerds on manscaped.com so you can take care of your good stuff.